They're coming to get you, Barbara.
It has been established that persons who have recently died have been returning to life and committing acts of murder. The unburied dead are coming back to life and seeking human victims.
This week on a podcast from Manif, it's Bloodbeat. Aaron, how's it going?
I'm doing great. Cheers, everyone.
Cheers to you.
So,
William, how you doing?
Doing well. Good to see you guys after such a long pause.
Oh yeah, it's been a while. It's been since
it's been a minute.
October, right? October?
Our Night of the Living Dead episode, right?
Yeah, was that October? Or we did Hammer in October. I
Yeah.
guess, and Night of the Living Dead was in December, but it's been a long time.
I was showing Aaron this earlier. I brought another prop with me.
Oh, that's good. Yes. That
Matches the theme of the movie.
Yes. Well, if our discussions of the movie make you too depressed, you can commit harakiri.
Yeah, that's what I'll do, yeah.
Do the Japanese.
All right, so 1983, Bloodbeat. Aaron, what'd you think about this movie?
Why do you have to go to me first? No, I saw this a while back, and then I rewatched it last week, and it's a neat film. I really like it. It's like, it's one of those cult classic films, and it just has some weird crap going on and telepathy, everything. So it was down my, right up my alley. So a thumbs up. I mean, I really did dig this film.
William, what'd you think about it? Was this the first time you'd seen it? Had you seen it before? Or?
No, I had seen it before. I actually, I first read about it on the Bleeding Skull website. Do you guys know about Bleeding Skull?
No,
I don't think
I've
so.
never heard of that.
That was a site that was popular a few years ago, and they covered cult movies and bad movies, so-called bad movies. And the description of it was so intriguing, when you start talking about a woman having an orgasm while mentally seeing a samurai killing the neighbors. I thought, well, that's something I should really seek out.
Yeah.
But I was surprised because when I look at the reviews, and there are reviews on almost every horror movie website, all the reviews seem to say basically the same thing, which is it's not really a good movie, but they like it. It's endearing and it's appealing in some way. And I think probably the reason that I found it interesting and attractive is because, have you ever heard this term, the Swedish term, hygge?
No.
It's a term that refers to a sort of lifestyle of comfort. It's I guess the translation in English would be cozy. It's like if you go to IKEA, you'll probably see a lot of mention of how to decorate your house to get the hygge effect. And when I watched this movie, I thought this is really heavy on hygge because it's all about this sort of comfortable setting, rural setting, sheepskin rugs and husky dogs, and everybody's wearing comfortable clothes, and it has a warm feeling to it. Which makes it kind of enjoyable, even though it really doesn't make it a lick of sense. The plot is nonsense. It looks like they just were making it up as they went along. And actually, I read that the director came up with the idea of the samurai because he saw the samurai armor in a pawn shop, and he thought, okay, samurais, why not?
Yeah, when I was watching it again, I was like, somebody had the outfit, and then they made a movie around it. I was like, that's the only way you end up with a samurai ghost in a rural, Wisconsin hunting farm.
Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense. And actually, the same thing is true with the music choices, right? I mean, there's some points in the movie where they have Gregorian chant playing over this story about Japanese samurai killing hunters in rural Wisconsin. It's like whatever we have the ability to use, we throw it into the
public domain, whatever they can get out of the public domain that they can just not have to pay anybody for.
What surprised me is they used Carmen Burana. Is that the name of that piece from that was used just a few years earlier, very famously in Excalibur? Have you ever seen Excalibur, the King Arthur movie?
Yeah.
And that movie really was sort of like Thus Spake Zarathustra in 2001. That was considered the theme from Excalibur. So for them to be so nervous to use it here in this movie, that's they're taking some liberties there.
Yeah.
But the story also shows that sign of kind of being made up as they went along, and they use whatever resources they have. That's not such a bad idea when you're making a low budget film. And I guess you could say that the best aspects of this movie come from the fact that they are making use of the environment they were actually in, right? But the problem is that if they don't have a strong story, they're missing an opportunity. Night of the Living Dead, for example, also was a film that was shot in an existing location. They found a place and they made use of whatever resources they have, but they took the time to write an intelligent story beforehand.
Yeah. Well, like you
This-
said, just I guess around their atmosphere, kind of like My Bloody Valentine was done in a minor town. So they had the resources. Hey, I'm going to go over here.
Right.
And like you said, I get what you're saying. Like, this film is like,
It doesn't
what the
make
heck are
any
we
sense.
doing here?
Even if you were to watch it repeatedly and take notes, you're not going to be able to figure it out because there isn't really any coherent story there. Some stuff that's being said when they had those newsreel clips from World War II, which of course is the way all psychics remember the Second World War.
Yes.
But if it was a Japanese soldier that's possessing it, why would he be dressed like a samurai? It might be a kamikaze, but kamikazes didn't wear samurai costumes. In World War II, getting into a plane with a samurai armor on, that would have been kind of constricting, I would think. So that doesn't really make any sense. And why would it be possessing the girlfriend? She just showed up on the scene. What does she have this from what?
I don't know. My confusion was, so at the end of the movie, when she burns that picture, I'm thinking, okay, that was her as a kid. She already knew that woman, like the mom. Like I think there was some kind of connection between them,
Well,
but I'm not for sure.
Wait, we can't be
psychic?
sure.
Well, isn't the mom psychic too?
Yes,
Apparently, the whole family was,
Oh, the
well,
whole,
as,
okay.
as it turns out.
except for the dad. But he really wasn't the dad. He was, I guess, the stepdad, or wanted to be the stepdad.
Well, it might be an interesting idea to find out if that was their intention, that picture that she's burning is her as a child, because it could just as easily be interpreted as that's a picture of the mother as a child.
Oh, it could be that too. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Because they also had another flashback whenever she cuts her finger on the sword, and then
we
it cuts
see
back
her
to a
as-
little girl cutting.
Yeah.
I didn't know, is that her? Is that who is this? You know?
Yeah.
Well, taking that into account, it is possible that that she is the woman what's the woman's name? Kathy,
Oh,
the psychic woman. It
Yeah.
might be that Sarah, the girlfriend, is supposed to be somehow related to them, but that doesn't really make much sense either. How many times does a kid bring his girlfriend home and it turns out that it's
They're
a long
related.
lost?
Down here, it
Uh-huh.
happens quite often.
Yeah.
No, I'm joking. No.
That's how you met your wife, right, Aaron?
Down there at the family reunion. No, go ahead.
What I liked about this movie, like I said, I mean, there's no storyline at all, but the acting was so bad that it was charm. It had like this weird charm to it. I even liked the fact that they accidentally filmed it in 4:3 and didn't realize they was doing that until like 5 days into shooting.
Well, I have a question about that because I know I heard that's something that's commented on by all the reviewers that have mentioned this, and apparently it comes from the cinematographer. That he was a good cinematographer. We got to give him credit. Best thing about the picture is the photography, right? It looks very nice,
Oh, yeah.
especially in the new print that just came out from was it Synapse or one of the
Who did put that out?
well.
Anyway.
We'll get it in the
Yeah,
details.
Yeah.
To the internet.
But the cinematographer claimed that he didn't know, thought he was shooting it for television. But how could that be? I mean, he must have been read its script. He knew that there would be scenes with women having orgasms. He thought that was being done for television. Who's television? What television is this?
It's not going to be on ABC Family Hour.
I wouldn't think so. I mean, maybe
HBO. Yeah.
yeah, maybe cable TV, possibly. But the thing of it is, when you're shooting on a video camera, you have that option. At least you used to have that option with standard definition cameras to switch back and forth between a 4:3 image and sort of a fake widescreen.
Yeah.
But on a film camera, and this is shot in 35 millimeter, films are very often shot full frame 4:3, and then the print is cropped or matted for release. So when he says that he thought it was supposed to be in 4:3, I think what he means is that he didn't take into account that the composition was supposed to be eventually a widescreen. He thought it was meant to be. Now, when you're shooting full screen and it's meant to be a widescreen film, it's going to be cropped. you have to make sure that all the important elements of the picture are in that narrow band in the middle.
Right.
So he might have forgot to do that.
Now, was that called Panavision? Whenever they would crop it down, but then they would actually move the film to like do
That was called pan and scan.
pan and scan. Yeah, yeah, that's right.
And but
that was always horrible. I hated those.
Right. Well, that's the reason actually why they shot feature films full screen 4:3, because then they would have the full image to put on TV, and the broadcast TV market was very big even back in the 60s. You wanted to get your movie on TV, and they didn't want to do that pan and scan stuff because they knew how awful it looked.
Right.
So they would shoot it 35 millimeter full screen, and then crop it for theaters, and then take the mat away when they put it on TV, so you'd see the full frame. And sometimes if the guy who was shooting it wasn't paying close attention, in the full screen version, you'd see like microphones poking down from above.
Right. Yeah, I remember in the Jack Nicholson's Wolf, there was a scene where it pans from him over to the other character, and it just looked, it looked horrible.
Oh, pan and scan is always awful.
Yeah.
But that's
I'm sorry, William. I did find out vinegar syndrome.
Oh, vinegar syndrome. Okay, yeah. That makes sense. But pan and scan is only necessary when they shoot the film actually in widescreen, anamorphic widescreen. That's when you have a lens that's actually giving you a widescreen image, and you don't have any stuff on the top and the bottom that you can't take away the mat and have a full screen.
Yeah.
So then they have to do that sort of electronic moving the picture back and forth, and that always looks terrible. And that's one of the reasons why for so many years, for decades really, you couldn't really appreciate movies like 2001 or Ben-Hur or Close Encounters. None of those movies look like anything on TV, because if they were pan and scanned, you were only seeing like a tiny part of the picture. And if they put them on letterboxed, then it was like such a tiny little narrow band in the middle of your screen.
Right.
Yeah.
You know. And
I was watching today. I was wondering. I wonder if this is where Zack Snyder got his inspiration for his 4:3 Justice League that he recently released.
Is the new release 4:3?
Yep.
Oh yeah.
On the HBO Max. I was like, that's kind of weird.
I still haven't seen it. That's 4 hours.
4
it's
hours.
good though. It doesn't feel like it. They break it up into chapters. It's pretty good.
Oh,
it's a lot better than the original.
That makes it better.
Well, it's kind of hard to imagine what advantage a movie like that would have in 4:3. That's a mystery. Unless
I'm not sure why done it.
Maybe some people are watching it on their smartphones. It would look better on, like if you were holding your smartphone.
Maybe.
Like an Instagram. Instagram movies. But that's weird. I hadn't heard that he had done that. Well, anyway, the photography is good. The picture is screwy and crazy. And there's all sorts of little things in it that struck me as being kind of bizarre and sort of mistakes that they make when things aren't properly planned out. Like, for instance, dialogue that doesn't really make sense. Like it made sense in the script, but when they came time to stage it, they didn't change the dialogue to suit the staging. So, like, for instance, all those times when you hear the guy at the beginning of the movie screaming, "All right!"
Yeah.
Yeah.
He screams "all right" like 4 times, even though it's not appropriate. Like, the woman comes to the porch of the house. It's like the second scene in the movie. And she comes to the porch and she said, "Did you get anything?" Right? And he says, "All right." Like he's just discovered that there's a dead deer in the back of his.
He just found out himself that he did kill one.
Yeah.
One of those
I
things.
didn't realize I was there.
All right, honey, I got one.
But that scene too, you see the sort of sloppiness of the storytelling, because this is a woman that's been living with a guy who's a very enthusiastic hunter, obviously. I mean, it's the sort of household where you come in for Christmas, the first thing they say is, "Look at our guns." Right?
Yeah.
So that's a hunter's household. And she's living with this guy all this time. And she comes to the door and says, "Did you catch anything?" Meaning she expects to see a dead deer. And yet when she comes and looks in the back of the truck, she's all like, "Oh my God." What did she expect to see? Did she expect it to be in a gift wrapped, or, I mean, yeah.
Already processed.
It's like they were coming up with these ideas as they were writing the script, and they didn't realize that you can't have those moments in that scene. You have to establish earlier what her feelings about hunting are. Presumably, if she's going with a guy who's a hunter, she's not going to be that upset about hunting.
Yeah.
I wonder if maybe she had,
history.
because she obviously has some kind of psychic ability. I wonder if she was feeling
Well, that's possible.
what the deer felt, and that was, and of course she's not really telling. He doesn't know that she has these abilities.
Well,
now they show that That's what confuses me. It's like she shows up at this house and it just elevated it. Like she's always had this.
Right.
Like this is all a big, surprise to her that she has this and, doing everything. And I was like, she didn't know she had this shit before. Like it's just weird how they play that out.
It just doesn't seem like they gave enough attention to writing the script. You got to write a backstory that includes all that stuff that happened before the movie begins. You can't have all this stuff be a revelation once the film starts to everybody. And some of the characters, like the son, he seems to know that his mother has these sort of strange visions and whatnot, or that she has some sort of supernatural power. The mother doesn't seem to be particularly reluctant to reveal to people when they ask. She says, "Oh, I don't want to trust her. I have a strange feeling about her." That's the sort of thing you would hear from somebody who believes they have psychic power. But I get the feeling that it was a French director. His name was Zaphiratos or something.
Fabrice Zaphiratos.
Fabrice Zaphiratos, yes. I have a feeling that he's a Frenchman coming to Wisconsin, and he wanted to make some sort of commentary about American hunting life, rural Americans and their interest in hunting. And when the film started, I thought, well, this is going to be interesting, because normally when you see hunters in movies, they're movies that are made by usually East or West Coast liberals, and the hunters are always portrayed as, drooling maniacs or, Texas Chainsaw Massacre type, families. And this would be nice, right? At the beginning of the film, we're seeing something we normally don't see. We're seeing somebody hunting, right? I don't know anything about hunting. It's interesting to see. But then they sort of throw that away, right? Because the next hunting scene, and like I say, I'm not a hunter. I don't know anything about hunting. But this doesn't make sense to you. A friend comes along with their party, his girlfriend, Ted's girlfriend. And they have like 2 or 3 other people in the party, as rifles and bows and arrows. They hand the girl a gun and she says, "I don't hunt," or "I can't hunt." And they still force the gun on her. Now, I don't know about anybody else, but if I was a hunter and there was somebody who's there who's telling me, "I don't hunt, I don't know how to use a gun," I wouldn't give her a gun.
Right.
And I certainly wouldn't have her behind me. They're all walking in single file while they're hunting.
That's the thing. If someone's not used to holding a gun, it's kind of like you don't just hand some, like, "Hey, here it is," and they're like, "Whoa, I'm not going to hand that person a gun. They're going to accidentally fire that thing off and hit you or someone else."
Do you guys have any experience with hunting?
I've never been like a lot, but I've grown up around it, and I can tell you what everything they're doing was wrong.
Yeah. I mean, especially that business with the single file.
Yeah.
I mean, they're walking so that the arrows and the guns of the person behind you are pointing right at your ass.
Yeah.
No.
And the guy in
100%
front,
right.
The guy in front is making these sudden stops, like, shh,
Well,
it's got somebody with a gun pressed against the spine practically, and he's making these sudden stops. And then they're going under wire fences, and everything, with the people with their guns still pointed, right?
That just shows that he had no one that knew how to hunt. Gary or guys, did y'all even see? I don't remember seeing an orange anything. Did y'all see an orange vest, a hat?
No.
Okay, Gary, I mean, hunters,
you have to wear orange.
You wear orange because deer, the deer are colorblind. Everybody else, can see color. So, I mean, the orange isn't going to scare off the deer.
Right.
So, yeah, that's another thing. If you're out hunting like that, first off, like you said, they're not walking behind, like straight behind you, and the gun's pointed at the person in front of them.
Right.
But orange is like key. Like you have to have a bright color, either neon green or bright orange.
Right.
I would say maybe they were on private property and there was no one else there. I'll give them that.
It turns out there was, though, right?
Yeah.
A body turns up, and the first question that the cop asks is, "Are you sure this isn't that? What do they call folks that hunt illegally?
Poacher.
Poachers. Yeah.
Are you sure this isn't that poacher?" I mean, if I was that cop,
Exactly.
I would give this guy a little more of a grilling. A guy shows up dead on his property when they're out hunting. I don't know if that wound was supposed to be a shotgun wound. I guess it wasn't. But but the other thing that struck me, and again, I don't know anything about hunting, but you got 4 people, 2 with rifles and 2 with bows and arrows, and they're all trying to get the same deer. Is that
No,
that's what it looked like they were
that-
doing, but I seen at least 2 deer running around. I don't know
Oh, there were
what.
2 deer.
Okay,
Okay.
Yeah, but I'm not for sure who was shooting at what or what their plan was.
The thing about it is when you go hunting, like bow hunters go with other bow hunters. Like everybody's, hey, we got bows and arrows, and they're good at it. They go bow hunting and they can, do the thing. I have no idea about bow hunting. All I know is I've been around people when they hunt with a gun, and there ain't no one with a bow around. Like that's a whole different animal.
One way or the other, we'll get that deer.
Yeah.
Arrows or bullets, we're gonna bring that fucking deer
Like
down.
a witch hunt for a deer, like a mob for a deer. And
Yeah, they shouldn't.
spears and
they got to give the deer
bows.
some chance, right? I mean, 4 people all shooting at the same deer, and the deer is sort of gambling so quickly that the camera actually has to follow it, and yet all the hunters have a steady bead on one place. They don't move at all. That doesn't seem very likely either.
No, you're right. You're spot on.
But I guess we're being
it's
picky,
common
right?
sense, you've never been hunting. It's just common sense.
It's common sense. That's the
Yeah.
way.
Yeah, another thing that felt like kind of weird too was that because we're talking about the poacher, I guess. I'm assuming I don't know who shot him. We don't know how he died. But the cop, when he's sitting in his car, he's of course the girl just ran into this dead guy and they're all freaking out. And the cop just like goes from that immediately to like, have a Merry Christmas.
Have a Merry Christmas.
Oh, by the way, Gary, Merry Christmas to all of you.
It was out of place. It's like this whole movie's out of place.
The other thing is that there's this lack of consistency in how people react to things. Like, for instance, the first time a dead body shows up, they call the police, right? The next time a dead body, a guy actually practically launches himself into their house and a neighbor, and he's dead. And the guy, Greg, we see him trying to sort of fold the body into the back of his truck. I mean, I don't think even in Wisconsin that the police allow you to sort of drop off dead bodies at the police station.
Hey, I found this.
Here's another one. And why is the samurai killing all these strange people? I mean, why would you be going if there's something going on in this house that the samurai has some grudge against the mother or the Sarah or whoever? Why are they picking on bums camping in the woods? Why are they going? And it looks like the neighbors are quite a distance from them.
Yeah, he had to drive there after he
drive, right? Yeah. So why would the samurai ghost be going all the way out there? I mean, I'm assuming we know that Sarah isn't taking the form of the samurai all along because she's in bed having her fun. And what an orgasmic creature she is. Boy, oh boy.
Yeah.
A lot of women probably want to know what the secret there is.
Yeah.
When I first saw the movie, I was looking at a very bad print on YouTube, and it was so dark, I just assumed that she had her hand down between her legs and she was masturbating. But I see now in the new clean print that she actually has both hands up and holding the bedclothes to her chest.
Yeah.
So she is just orgasming from the thrill of seeing these fat neighbors in ratty bathrobes being perforated by a samurai while they make their tang for the evening. Another little bit of lack of continuity. They work in the husky dog, which helps with the hygge feel, right? You want to have your husky dog around, fluffy animal. And it looks like a very handsome creature, but it seems to be pretty much a complete waste of space when it comes to being a watchdog, because the woman is in the kitchen making the tang and she gets killed. The dog doesn't hear that. The husband gets up out of the waterbed, leaves the dog there, goes into the kitchen, finds the woman dead on the floor, lets out one of those classic horror movie, oh my God. The dog still doesn't come out, right? Then the samurai goes after the guy in the bathrobe. He must be, yes, they got a dog that was hearing impaired. And then he chases the guy in the bathrobe through the house, still no dog. And the guy launches himself through the window, which is a bad choice, it seems to me. I mean, if I was being chased by anybody in my own house, I think I'd be able to find a way out without jumping through the window. That's a movie thing. Like people think that jumping through windows.
Oh, exciting. Go through the window.
Head first.
Yeah, head first.
But the dog never shows up again. And in fact, since he's tucking the neighbor's body, the guy who actually came to the house, since he's tucking that in the back of his pickup truck, presumably the wife is still laying dead on the kitchen floor with the tang.
Yeah.
This film is filled with products.
Yeah, it's like it wasn't, like you said, it's not thought through. Like no one ever would do that unless they killed the person and are trying to hide the body. They wouldn't just, oh, let me just pick him up and throw him. I mean, the guy's dead. I mean, you're not going to do anything.
Well, I mean,
doing that.
In most states, I would think it's actually a crime to disturb a person. You find a dead body that's obviously been murdered, you're not allowed to sort of pick it up and carry it around with you. Of course, the other, and I think this is really the jump the shark moment, when they had this tremendous poltergeist activity in the house, and everything, the windows are going up and down, the doors are slamming. It's really the scene from Close Encounters where the aliens are coming for the little kid and you have everything spinning and flying around. After all of that is over, they all go back to business as usual. So
Yeah.
nobody leaves the house. The guy finally gets into the bedroom with his girlfriend because during the psychic seizure of whatever it was, there's blue light that's keeping him out, right? So he finally gets in to the bedroom, and rather than making sure that his girlfriend is okay and consoling her, he drops trow and hops into bed.
Gets a bit, yeah.
Yeah. Hasn't she had enough?
I would have thought so. Must be exhausted.
The whole movie.
But that's kind of ridiculous because, and again, it's another thing it's a question of budget, right? You can't leave the house because you don't have any other place to shoot the movie. So the people, no matter what happens in the movie, you have to keep the people in the house, right? But it really doesn't make much sense. And they take Greg, who got hit in the head with a can of cream corn or something. I don't know what it is. They put him to bed, and a strange little thing. He's a guy with a full beard and fairly long hair. He's got a smooth chest and a shaved armpit.
Yeah.
I also noticed that they were nice enough to put a little bandage on his head, but they put the tape over his hair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As far as I know, that doesn't work.
All I know is when someone gets a concussion, that's the best thing. Put them down to go to sleep.
Probably, yes. That's to make sure that you finish them off completely.
Now the scenes with like the mom character, like whenever she was doing her painting or just zoning out, having these weird conversations, to me that felt like a different movie.
Yeah.
I feel like we were watching like some kind of student art film with her, and then the rest of the movie was, just people didn't know what they were doing, trying to throw a movie together.
Well, that painting business and Sarah's objection to having the paintings in the room as if the mother can see her through the paintings, that doesn't really go anywhere either. I mean, if somebody is psychic and they can see in their mind what's going on, why would they need paintings to act as their eyes in other people's rooms? And isn't that kind of creepy that the paintings would be, she'd be able to see her son's bedroom activity?
Yes. Well, and that's another thing. The son kind of knows his mom's psychic, and he just still tries to get some anyway.
Like, that's right. He likes an audience,
I guess.
But the business with when she's painting and she's suddenly one hand is shaking like this and the paint, or she puts the paintbrush in the other hand and and that's like automatic writing, right? The painting is she's being seized by some spirit. So that would suggest that she's like a medium who is in touch with some sort of spirit on a regular basis, right? The spirit is talking to her or painting through her. How that figures into the thing she says later, when she sounds like she's the power, right? She's saying, I'm not ready to give up yet and all this, so you can't hurt my family. I don't know who she's talking to. Is she talking to the samurai?
That's what I got out of it.
Well, why would she even know? I mean, unless she's familiar with that spirit, why would she be so familiar with it? Yeah, it don't make sense.
Yeah, because there was parts where she acted like she knew more than she was saying,
right.
And they just never got to that part. I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know what the deal was.
They crafted mysterious dialogue that made her sound like she had knowledge, but the person who was writing it didn't really have the knowledge that she supposedly had.
Right. Well, this was written by the director.
Yes, and he said He
This
claimed,
is the only thing he's ever written. There was another movie, but I can't remember what it was.
well, he claimed that the name Bloodbeat comes from the sound that he heard in his head while he was taking drugs during the writing and production of the film. His accelerated heartbeat. I don't know what it would have been taking to give him an accelerated heartbeat that would be loud enough for him to hear his blood pressure, his heartbeat in his head.
Yeah.
But that's what he claims. So that's where we get the title from.
Yeah, they actually had that in the film at the beginning. Whenever they're starting to go hunting,
You hear
I
the
guess after
heartbeat.
they get rid of the gun, you can hear, like, I guess it's her heartbeat or something.
Well, that's a great.
Playing over the soundtrack.
It's always a great standby for horror movies when you start to hear a heartbeat on the soundtrack.
Yeah,
Something's going to happen. So that's probably he trusted his intuition there, and I guess it worked out. There's a lot of problems with the sound when they go, and this is something that maybe if you have a farmhouse, maybe there's a more common thing. But there's that scene when they come upstairs and they find Sarah on the floor after she's found the armor in the little box at the foot of the bed, and the sound on the scene is awful because I guess they either didn't have the microphones close enough to the actors, so they had to boost the volume, the levels had to be brought up, and you can hear this horrible hiss. And in the middle ground, there in the floor, there's like a lit grill. And I'm not familiar with that. What is that? Is that
it's probably probably a gas furnace.
Yeah.
Is it right in the center of the floor?
Yeah.
Really? Wow. See,
It'd be like the pallet light would be on all the time, and then when the heat kicks on, it lights the rest of the gas.
That would explain it. Yeah, I thought maybe that was a vent that went actually downstairs to the room downstairs, but that seems to be a rather an odd thing to have in a bedroom.
Right.
Yeah.
But okay, so it's a heating. Now I understand. So the hiss didn't come from. Well, maybe the hiss did come from that. Maybe that's what the problem.
It could have
is.
been.
Yeah. Yeah. There's another scene whenever what was our main character, the boy?
Ted. Is it Ted or Tom?
Yeah, Ted. Whenever he goes into the room after Sarah burns the picture, and it's like they didn't figure out to record sound at all because you couldn't really you could see his mouth moving, but he wasn't talking. And I'm assuming they added sound effects over top of it. But yeah, he was talking, but there was no audio. So I'm assuming there's a lot of They probably had a lot of audio issues and just probably didn't have the time to go back and ADR or anything in this movie.
That's likely because the looping probably cost quite a lot of money to rent a studio and have all the actors back. So they probably figured, just whatever. Put some more classical music over it. It'll be fun. But there's audio problems all through the film. Right at the beginning, when he's doing his all right thing near the truck, and she's all the way over by the house. And it sounds strange. It sounds like the microphones are on the ground because you can hear their footsteps as they come and go, but their dialogue sounds kind of hollow or distant. And it gets louder as they get closer to the truck, which sort of gives away where the microphone might have been. All of these things, though, I got to say, if the movie's story was better, you probably wouldn't, nobody would be picking at it.
No.
It's just because the story is so, half-assed that you begin to pick at all the little technical problems, continuity problems that...
I feel like that scene where he has no audio, I just feel like maybe there was a lot of plot points that we missed that may have helped the story along a little bit.
Small part.
There should have been more dialogue because if two people who didn't realize they had psychic powers suddenly they have these bolts of electricity coming out of their hands, you would think they would have something, they would ask some questions. What's happening?
Yeah, like, where'd you come from?
Yeah, but as soon as they figure out that they can do this, they're doing that shaking thing, and which looks like jazz hands, like they're doing a cabaret or something. And the sister too, she jumps in, and sister is kind of a strange character too because he seems to spend more of his time with his sister than his girlfriend.
Couldn't figure out who was if her boyfriend, girlfriend, who was sisters. I didn't know.
No, that was his sister.
I couldn't keep everything straight with him.
He spends the whole middle of the movie playing Monopoly with his sister and his cat. And that has to be the longest Monopoly game ever recorded. But still, I think that stuff, that sort of scenes of them sort of just relaxing in the living room, that's what makes the film feel so cozy and warm and human, and it sort of takes the edge off of the stupidity of the rest of the film.
Well, and I think it would have been cool, like she was in the room, and then when she opens that chest to find the samurai armor, and then she starts acting weird, and the mom is like, oh no, you didn't open that, did you? Because I got that from somewhere, or I can't believe I left it out. And it has an evil spirit, a samurai spirit in there of, whatever the name they want to come up with. That's what I was like, come on, give me something. You can't just find this, especially like you said, in Wisconsin, in a cabin, give a story of the suit and why there's a killer samurai, which is cool. I'm, hands down, that's awesome.
Yeah.
But, she's like, okay, you, if you open this, you're attached to it now, and you're going to get weird feelings because you're going to be able to see. No, nothing. The mom just, sits there catatonic, and then like, oh, it just looks like, oh, I see something. And that really hurts it, I think.
Yeah. Well, that sort of opaque, impossible to figure out story may be one of the reasons why the film is still being talked about, right? I mean, I can imagine the director saying, "Oh, I saw 2001: A Space Odyssey, and I couldn't figure that out, so I guess it's okay now to do a movie."
Let's do
it. And in a way, it works because people spend all their time trying to figure out what the fuck is this, And those very old-fashioned 80s style glowing effects.
Oh yeah,
there's something charming about that too.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. It does take you back when you see that. You're like, oh, you got to see that on Ghostbusters,
right? Yes. But or I was thinking, when I see that any stuff like that, I always think that's the sort of stuff they used to do all the time on the original Star Trek.
Oh yeah, that too.
The ray guns or any kind of force field. It was always like that little sparkly thing, with lines going out, almost like a comic book. That's what you would see in like a Jack Kirby comic with the little lines indicating.
Yeah, they would just freeze the frame and draw on the cell, light on that one cell, and that would be your special effect.
Right. Yeah, and it's easy, it's cheap, and I guess it's effective to a certain extent.
Yeah,
and also for the time this came out, and that's what I appreciate about these films. The time that this came out, and to have all that, and we're still talking about, like you said, but the little effects that they have, I mean, it just works for this movie.
Yeah.
And I love stuff like that. That's what makes me like the film, as well as also question it,
So actually, it could have been a slightly better film, and maybe wouldn't have been so likable.
Yes.
It's a good thing it isn't any better.
Yeah.
What I think helped it too was the them filming on location in a real, farmhouse. The cars were, you just felt like, okay, yeah, that cop car is definitely a small town sheriff car.
Right.
And was that the same car that had the Christmas decorations hanging up in it? Did you guys notice that there was a car that had like?
No, I didn't notice that.
I didn't notice. Well, I think one of the great things about movies from this particular time, like the mid '60s to the mid '80s, was that they tended to be done, low budget movies tended to be done in real places, and they gain so much because they become like little time capsules. They automatically pick up all the authenticity of shooting in a real place. And when you see this new print from Vinegar Syndrome, and you see all the detail in the set, like little dust on the windowsills, and there's one scene where the guy is being attacked in the kitchen with the canned goods, and on the wall near his head, there's a nail sticking in the wall. And it's the sort of thing a set designer, if he was
not going to put that there,
wouldn't do that, right? He'd put a picture there, but just to put a nail there. And yet I've been in plenty of little working class homes, and there's always some nail in the wall where something fell down, or and they never bothered to take the nail out.
It was last year's calendar, and you haven't
last
got
year's
the
calendar, right?
yet.
Yes, exactly. Right? All those things make it feel so real, and the fact that you can actually sit there and list all the products that you see on the shelf. The Quaker Oats and I guess the one that I liked best was the butternut coffee.
Yeah, saw that.
a Coca-Cola product, believe it or not.
Yeah,
butternut coffee. Never heard of that one, but
me neither.
Yeah, another thing that helps it too, and I love this in movies when I can watch a movie and the setting. Like, if I can watch, like when I watch this movie and they go in that house. And I just felt, okay, that house, I'm getting chills right now because I know it's cold in that house.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Because like I said, it's only probably only got one room furnace in it that's trying to heat the whole place,
Right.
and it just gives you that. It feels real. I mean, that's what really helped it out.
And they help by adding additional atmosphere by making it, by setting it at Christmas.
Right.
I mean, my feeling is every movie should be set at Christmas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or Halloween, one of the two, because it's so easy to make a really evocative shot if you have things like Christmas decorations and the Christmas lights. That can really create emotion in people without even, you don't even have to do anything, and people start to feel something. They respond to that sort of imagery. So they were wise to do it at Christmas. So I mean, I don't know if you guys have ever determined which bad movie you really think is the worst or the best bad movie. Have you ever had a discussion like that?
No,
We've talked about some bad, mainly Neil Breen films. If you know who Neil Breen is.
No, I don't know.
But you should definitely look him up and check out some of his stuff, because he just has a bunch of money and wanted to be a director and just makes.
Yeah,
whatever
he's
he
like
wants.
a real estate guy or something, and he makes these movies. Yeah,
I think I might know the guy. He doesn't do horror films, right? He does
no.
No, they're
strange apocalyptic action movie.
Yeah,
I know the
some
guy.
kind of like Ed. Yeah, if that's what you want to call it.
Well, I mean, for me, it's a tricky thing nowadays because, like, for instance, I think you guys talked about the guy from the Misfits who made that movie.
Yeah, dancing.
Yes.
And I guess Billy, and I guess you two guys as well, you found that to be pretty bad, right? And,
it was rough.
Yeah, Veronica, that was something. And I like Glenn Danzig as an artist, musical wise.
Right.
And what's funny is, even though I didn't like Veronica, he's coming out with some sort of vampire western, and I'm like, I gotta see this. Maybe he can redeem himself. I don't know, but I'm such a fan of his that you gotta see where this goes, and if it goes bad.
But it was interesting to see the how negatively, I think Billy was particularly harsh on the film. He really disliked it. The worst film I've ever seen. And I don't understand why it is that these recent films, these recent bad movies, nobody really has any affection for them.
I can tell you exactly what it is, and I'll use Veronica as an example. Is that movie had no charm. There was nothing about it that I could set. You can't. There's nothing enjoyable.
Right.
It was just horrible.
You can tell that this was just like, here, I got money, put my name on it because people know me, and whatever. There was no. You could tell, like he said, Carrie said it best. I mean, you can just tell.
Yeah. It seems to have also this, almost feels like a porno film, like,
Well, you have porn actresses in it. So.
Porn actresses, and it has that sort of aesthetic that, I mean, if you're looking for porn, of course, that's what you want to see.
Yeah, there you go.
But the sort of charm, as you put it, the charm that you want to find in these low-budget movies, which is even present in Tommy Wiseau's film The Room.
Right.
Awful film. The guy doesn't know, how to write a story or how to direct or how to act, but still, it's kind of endearing.
It is.
Yeah.
Well, you could tell that when it comes to Tommy Wiseau or even Neil Breen, when we talk about him, you can tell that they have a passion for it, right?
Yes.
And that's all. They don't care if they're making a $1 million blockbuster Hollywood movie. They just, you can tell that they have a passion for wanting just to make a movie.
Right.
So when you have that behind the film, it doesn't matter how bad it is, you can enjoy it.
Right.
And people
But with
know
the dancing movie, it was just he just wanted to be a director. He just wants to say I'm a director, and there's nothing. It was horrible.
Well, maybe he was thinking he would follow in the steps of what's his name, the guy.
Rob Zombie.
Rob Zombie, yeah.
Probably, yeah. He failed
that,
miserably on that one.
Yeah, and that's the thing about Rob Zombie films. Whenever you watch those, you can see his inspiration.
Yes.
A lot of it. I mean, a lot of it is Texas Chainsaw Massacre and House of a Thousand Corpses.
Right.
But and he tried to venture out, and I know a lot of people don't like his Halloweens, but I did dig his take on it. Billy, like you said, Billy hates him, but I actually
he's a tough critic, really.
He is, but that's what we need. I like that. There's yin and yang, and I really do enjoy those movies. And I really wish I liked Veronica better. I went in with an open mind, like this is going to be great, and it just wasn't.
It would make life easier if the people that you admire, when they did something like that, it turned out to be something you could praise, because you don't want to be mean-spirited, or you don't want to be critical of something from somebody who you think is talented in other areas.
Yeah. And another thing, William, he has, yes, it's his name. He's attached to it, and it was a comic book first.
Oh, that's right.
You would think that, he had a little bit more of not a lot of money, but a little bit more of a budget to go into some of the effects that he wanted to do.
Right.
And it was just, it just fell flat. I don't know if it was a friend of his that owned a, special effects studio. Especially the guy with the spider, the rapey Spider-Man, as I think we called him that. The extra arms, you could tell they're just, it's like, are you kidding me? Any puppeteering, something, you didn't have to be CGI, because I know that stuff's expensive. But that's where I guess a lot of people feel, they're like, what the hell were you thinking, dude?
Well, also might have been, I didn't see the film. Is it done in a campy style, or is it?
No, you can tell that he was trying to make a serious, and that's what bothered me, is he was trying to make a serious horror movie.
Yeah, you really do have to have some sense of humor. I mean, I'm not really crazy about these movies that really camp it up and make the whole thing ridiculous, because I think to myself, well, I really want to escape into the story, and I don't want it to be so absurd that escape is impossible. But at the same time, if you're doing stuff, and especially if you're doing a lot of elaborate special effects, you have to be self-aware to some extent. You have to, wink at the audience a little bit. Otherwise, you end up looking ridiculous, and the audience feels sorry for you. I wonder, both of you fellows that have some interest in making your own films or getting into media.
Oh,
yes.
I would love to. Yeah, we got some ideas.
Do you think that when you watch these bad films, that a part of you says, this is encouraging, because somebody who's clearly inferior to me actually managed to make a movie and get it released? So that's a good sign. It means I have some possibility, right?
I believe it does a little
ahead.
bit, yeah.
I mean, that's the way I feel.
Yeah.
I always feel, I could do better than this,
Yeah.
This guy's movies all over the place.
If Erotica can get on Shudder, I should be able to make something that can show up on Shudder.
Right.
I think when I see these movies, especially types of these, I take inspiration from. I'm more of that guy. Like I like them to be a little bit weird, and I can tell that this is not going anywhere. But man, is it interesting? Right. Samurai Suit, or Street Trash, with all the craziness that is. I love that movie. Spookies, which is a very interesting story. That whole movie, how that got put together, is so freaking crazy, and it just works for some reason. It just fucking works.
It's actually, the story of how the movie was made is more thrilling than the story that's in the film.
Exactly.
But that has actually some pretty impressive special effects, so they have that in that movie, right?
Yeah, the practical. Yeah, exactly. And I've always been drawn to that type of film. I'm always like, man, that's just. And then I'm also in awe at some of the stuff that they create, knowing that, wow, how did they come up with that? That looked pretty cool. Good on them. That's, they try to make it realistic, but then also, with me, that's just how I see these films. They don't have to be Oscar worthy, right. But if you get my attention somehow and like, wow, that's a weird story, or man, the practical effects on that was pretty badass. The story was shit, but the practical effects,
Well, I mean, it looks like they spent a large part of their budget on the effects work, and I guess that at some point they were like two. It sort of split. There was two teams. One, somebody took over. The producer took over. And added all the comedy stuff with the farting creatures and all that. But Spookies is a pretty good example, because that does have a sense of place and sort of atmosphere. But even a film like Manos, The Hands of Fate, which doesn't have any good effects in it at all. I mean, to me, that's the perfect bad movie. And I know for a long time after it resurfaced, because it was sort of a lost film for many years, and then it resurfaced, I guess, when Mystery Science Theater found it, and then it became a big thing. And for a long time, it was like #1 worst film on the IMDb, which is a position it richly deserves, in my opinion. But there's...
That means it beat out Plan 9, right?
It did, yes. Yeah.
Wow.
Plan 9 looks like Orson Welles.
Yeah.
Manos is one of those perfect... I just went back and I watched... That's another film that was restored. I don't know if you've seen the restored version of it. They found the original negatives, I guess, amazingly, after all these years. And somebody spent a couple of years and raised money on Kickstarter to restore it. And it looks very good. But of course, the original material, the photography is so bad to begin with that it can only look so good.
No, that was what? That was the guy that made it. Was he like a car salesman? And
he was a fertilizer salesman.
and
more appropriate, right?
And and made this movie on a bet, right? Like, oh, I can make a movie. All right, here you go, do it. And then
here it is.
Sterling Silliphant, who was the Oscar-winning, he would become the Oscar-winning screenwriter. He's the guy that wrote the screenplay for, I guess, In the Heat of the Night.
Mm-hmm.
He happened to be down. I think it was Manos was shot in Texas, wasn't it? Wasn't that a Texas film?
I'm not sure.
Anyway, he was down. Silliphant was down in that area. He was meeting this fellow for some reason, and you're right. He was so arrogant. He thought, "I'm going to tell this Hollywood screenwriter that I could do. What you're doing ain't that hard. I could do it." And he proved that, of course, it's impossible. Right? He really didn't have the ability to do what Sterling Silliphant and other Hollywood folks were doing. At that time, it was particularly difficult because it's not like now with video. What you see is what you get. You shoot something, it's immediately available. Back then, he was working with a 16mm camera that could only hold 3 minutes of film at a time, and it didn't record sync sound, so everything had to be done in post. And it didn't seem like the people who were operating the camera knew how to focus it properly. It didn't seem like they knew how to compose a shot because they got people, looking this way and looking that way. Sometimes in the same scene, people suddenly jumping across the room between cuts. I mean, it's a perfect mess. And even the idea of it, what is the idea of it? I don't know. I mean, it's a guy who has a cloak with a hand on it, painted on it, and he has a nasty looking dog. And in his basement or in the backyard or in another room, we're not really quite sure what it is, he has all these women who are wearing girdles and negligees that are fighting with each other all the time. That's the plot.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I believe half the movie was just them getting there, right? The driving scene. So
just terminable. Yes, with the car radio.
No audio.
I do want to say, yes, William, you are right. It was shot in El Paso, Texas. That's where the insurance and fertilizer salesman was from.
There you go. And, he was both.
You got to make a road trip. You got to make a road trip, Aaron. Go visit these places.
Yeah, I know. I'm a big fan. What I see, like in the 60s and 70s films that I watch, especially in the 60s, they really like like you were saying, a lot of it's just driving to or getting to the destination. Yes. I don't understand that way of, I guess, thinking
because
about
it fills up. It fills up.
Yeah.
Screen time.
So, imagine how long Lord of the Rings would be if you took out all the walking.
Yeah.
Well, back then,
why didn't they just fly one of the big owls to the?
Yeah, they always have a musical track, and then you see the guy driving the car and all that. Which the coolest movie I think to come out of that was when was Vanishing Point made? Was that 70s or was that? That was 70s.
Yeah.
It was an awesome movie with a lot of driving.
Yeah, well, I can imagine that it must be very consoling to a producer on a low-budget film to think, I can fill up a quarter of the movie with just shots of cars pulling up to places and driving away.
Yeah.
Some of the movies that John Agar did, those little low-budget horror movies, there's one that I always forget the name of. It's about some sort of horrible crappy looking space monster, and he's a sheriff of the town, and he has to find it before it kills another.
I know what you're talking about. I can't think of the name of it.
I mean, really, it's got to be a quarter of the film. It's just people driving up and driving away, you know. And what I really like is when they do the real magnificence of a scene where somebody drives up, gets out of their car, walks up the stoop, rings the doorbell, right? And say, boy, that's wonderful. That's like 10 minutes of the movie. And that sort of thing went on all the time. And you always would see in the credits, like cars supplied by. So they got the cars for free, and it gave them something to shoot. And it does add production value, you know.
Yeah, but I mean, it kind of helps too if you have something else going on, like maybe some really good dialogue going on as they're, you know, kind of Tarantino style, you know.
Right.
Like, you know, this Pulp Fiction, they're just in the car and then they're walking upstairs to the apartment. But they have this conversation going the whole time. You're not sitting there going, all right, just hurry up and get up there. You want to stay with these guys the whole time.
Well, part of it is the process of getting to the point, since they really don't have a point to most of these stories anyway. Really, the only thing that we can enjoy in these films are those little glimpses of the way life was back then, the cars and the streets. And if somebody is from El Paso, I guess, seeing, you know, their local town up on the screen, even if it's in a terrible movie.
Yeah, and that is cool because, you know, you even have the place that's called the gas station where, you know, that's the gas station they stopped at, you know, Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Now they sell barbecue, and I mean, it's a neat little, you know, place to go. And it is nostalgic, you know, just to go and check these places out. And I think the original house where they lived, I think that got moved off of a property and put on another one, but it's the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre house. I think you can even stay the night in it. I mean, I think, you know,
book a room.
But it is neat to see that. And I know what you're saying. You're driving around like, oh man, you know, I remember seeing that in that movie. Or if I watch a movie that's made in Texas, I can see where it's at. And I'm like, you know what? That's West Texas right there. Or that's, you know, East or whatever.
And if it's something from long ago, particularly given the hardships that we've suffered over the past couple of years, all the craziness and uncertainty in the world, to be able to go back and see the way things were decades ago, and to realize that you were there, and when you were there, you had the same feelings you have now, that the world is coming to an end and everybody's stressed out and anxious. And now you look back and you say, oh, those were such innocent times.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Everybody was so happy back then. But we weren't. We were all miserable. It just looks better in retrospect, you know.
Yeah.
Man Us, the Hands of Fate hasn't reached the point yet where anybody's visiting the locations or putting up hotels.
You know what? Challenge accepted. Now I'm going to do it.
You got something to do. Well, I know they did that with the mall for Dawn of the Dead, right?
Yeah, everybody goes there. I got to make it up there before they shut the whole thing down.
Are they shutting it down?
I figure it's going to eventually. That's what I'm saying. I got to try to get up there.
Malls aren't, you know, they're not going to last in the current environment.
They're going to be, it'll be a zombie by the time I get up there.
Oh,
the mall will be a zombie. So in 1984, if you guys want some extra credit watching, in 1984 a movie came out called Ninja 3. Has nothing to do with the first two Ninja movies. Domination.
Oh, Domination.
It's about an evil ninja attempts to avenge his death from beyond the grave by possessing an innocent woman's body. I'm wondering if this was a ripoff of Bloodbeat.
Well,
go ahead.
You wouldn't think that the idea was such a clever one that anybody would want to steal it, but
it's such a weird idea that you can't imagine someone else also had that idea.
The director of Bloodbeat sprung for a whole samurai costume and a sword, and the folks at Ninja 3, they just had to get some cheap ninja costume.
There you go.
The Halloween shop.
Where's the guy that made that crappy samurai movie?
Well, I hope people enjoy making these movies because at least that's something, right? Somebody got some pleasure out of it, you know.
I just stumbled upon the movie. It showed up on Shudder one day. I was like, well, let me watch this, and I was like, I really enjoyed it. And of course, I watched it again for the second time today, and I would definitely watch it again.
Yeah. I mean, there's a part of me that feels that it's too bad in a way because they were so close. You know, if they just put a little more thought into it, they could have had something great. And of course, when you watch other, I don't know if Phantasm is really in the same budget range, but it has some of the similar aspects. I mean, it was done a fairly low budget. And I thought when I was watching that scene with the stuff flying across the kitchen in Bloodbeat, that they must have seen Phantasm too, because that's the same special effects shot that they had in Phantasm with the silver sphere going across the screen. It looks better with the silver sphere than it does with whatever they're throwing at the guy. But I mean, Phantasm is something that really is filled with fun stuff, and it's a delightful movie, and it's a movie you don't feel embarrassed about speaking highly of. Whereas this one, you always have to sort of hesitate. Yeah, it's a bad movie, but I kind of liked it. You know, it's like a guilty pleasure. You know?
It's like you said, man, it's just a fun little, you know, hey, I ain't doing anything, and hopefully whoever listens to this or watches the video, they check it out, because it is a fun little, I guess if you have a bad movie night, you know, and you're just hanging out with people. But, you know, definitely check this one. Make it part of the list, because you'll love it for that. If anything.
It's not offensive, certainly. It's not particularly annoying or irritating. It's just, it's something that would be nice to have on, you know, at Christmas or Halloween.
There you go. Yeah.
Well, you know what? To touch on that, I'm glad you said that, William, because usually you find a character you're like, God, you know, there's not really a character that you get annoyed with. You're right.
Not really. No. Yeah. I mean, I could have done without everybody screaming each other's names all the time.
Yeah.
That's a crutch, I think, that's really more the actors thing.
Yeah.
I have a feeling that the actors are asked to improvise, and the only thing they can think of to say is to keep repeating the name of the other character.
There you go.
But the one guy is screaming, Dolly, 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 Dolly. You know, oh, God, please make it stop.
Yeah, the girl that played Dolly, I'm watching the whole time. I was like, is this? I kept thinking it was the same girl from Little House on the Prairie that played the blonde sister, and I was like, it's got to be her. And I looked her up. No, it's not her. This is the only movie she's ever done.
Well, she was good looking. She had nice eyes and nice teeth, which counts for a lot. And she wasn't much of an actress, but she probably could have had a career if she wanted to. Lose a couple of pounds, maybe. Give up.
I just wonder if it was this movie is why she doesn't do anything else.
Well, I'm generally. I know that there are probably some of the actors that I've worked with that would have said, I would have had a career if I hadn't been in your movie. But I don't think that probably works that way. I mean, there's so many bad horror movies that had people in them that went on to become famous. You know, DiCaprio and Johnny Depp, and was probably a whole squad. Even Roy Scheider, long before he did Jaws, before he did French Connection, he did a low-budget horror movie called Castle of the Dead or Castle of the Living Dead or something like that. It was shot up in Long Island or in New Jersey or someplace like that, and it's like a gothic melodrama. It's really terrible, and he's terrible in it. It was done by the guy that directed Horror of Party Beach. That's the level that we're talking about.
Oh, shit.
This was his follow-up to Horror of Party Beach. And Roy Scheider's career certainly didn't suffer from being in it, because when people come to cast a movie, the only thing that they're interested in is whether or not you've been in another movie. They don't care. They're not going to go and watch all the fucking movies you've done, right?
Yeah.
So you have a credit on your resume. That's all that matters.
Yeah, I would say it has to. I would say it's not. I wouldn't say the quality of the movie. I would say it was the experience the actor or actress had that probably makes them think, I want to go do that again, or no, I'm never doing that again.
Well, I get the impression from these pictures that are regional films, and I think it's true of Bloodbeat, they worked with people who actually were living in that location, at least some of them. So they're folks that really weren't professional actors. They may have been actors on the level of like community theater, but I don't think any of them really expected to go on and become movie stars. Good thing, I guess.
Yeah.
Would have been very
I think the only one that did was Terry Brown, who played Gary.
Oh, is that right?
I think he went on. I'd have to open it back up, but I think he went on and done some other films.
Oh. Well, he wasn't terrible.
He was in Copycat, Princess Diaries.
Oh, great.
Yeah. He went on. He's acted all until 2004.
Not major roles, I assume.
No, he plays like neighbor, cop 2.
Cop 2. Anytime anybody has to shout, he played a tree. Yeah.
And My Samurai. So that's a weird.
Anytime they need somebody to scream, all right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he comes pre-shaved. So
there you go.
Now here's an interesting fact for you, Aaron, because I know that, like myself, you're a fan of Red Letter Media and Best of the Worst, and you know who Jay is on there, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
This is one of his favorite films, and I guess according to this, he is planning on doing a remake of this movie.
Really?
Which makes me question: Is it in public? Is it in the public domain? Can I go ahead and try to remake it? Should I? I mean, I got the sword, so
Yeah.
That's right. You're well ahead of everybody.
Oh, and I want the part in that song go, all right. Give me that. You got a movie. You got a movie being made.
Well, I assume when he said that, he was being facetious, because I can't believe, and then he seems like a pretty savvy guy. I can't believe he'd actually put money into a remake of Bloodbeat, because
Yeah.
the only reason it's really charming is because it's so unaware of its flaws. Right? I mean, there are actually 2 movies that were sequels to Manos, and they're terrible. You know, not. I don't mean to. I don't want to be rude to the people that made them, because I'm sure it was done in good fun and with the best intentions. But you can't make a sequel or a remake to something that is only known and is only famous because it's not really very good. Because what are you going to do? Are you going to intentionally make a bad movie so it lives up?
same thing happened to Birdemic.
Birdemic.
Yeah, they were making this awesome movie, and it turns out to be bad. So then they tried to act like, oh, we knew we were making a bad movie. Now we're gonna make a second one, and we're purposely gonna make it bad. And they failed miserably at it because they were trying too hard to make a bad movie.
Right, and nobody wants to see that.
You have to accidentally make Birdemic.
Yes. Well, you got to accidentally make Bloodbeat. You have to accidentally.
That's the charm of this
stars
movie.
Have to align, man.
That's why I enjoy this movie, because I knew that they were seriously making a movie, and they tried their damnedest, and they turned out an okay picture.
Yeah, they came close. Samurai Cop is another one. I don't really know what to make of that film. I don't think it's a good film. It's hilarious in some parts because it is so awful. But then they do a sequel, and they got Tommy Wiseau to appear in the sequel. And what are we supposed to make of that?
It's they're just like, oh, well, people expect it to be bad. It's like, no, not really. That's what gave it its charm.
Right.
You know.
Did you ever hear the story about when they were doing the premiere of Manos? They actually rented a theater in El Paso, I guess, and it was a big thing because it had been shot in town. There was a lot of publicity in the newspapers, and they couldn't afford more than one limousine. So what the guy did, the guy who the fertilizer salesman, he rented the one limousine and he had it go around the corner several times, drop off. And then they all went in to watch the show, and of course, as the movie was playing, and the attitude of the audience began to change, they were all sort of slinking down, in their seat and moving towards the exit. And that's the thing that we always forget, is that for a lot of people, the idea of being in a really awful movie, that's not such a fun thing. They really had their heart set on being in something good. They didn't want to be in something that's going to embarrass them. That was the point of that documentary about, is it Trolls 2?
Yes,
Trolls 2, movie ever made, yeah.
That's a really sad documentary, because you can see that there are people who really took their craft seriously, like the woman that plays the mother in that film. And now she's like a recluse, and she's taking care of her own mother, I guess, is suffering from dementia. And it's very sad, because she's still talking about all her dreams and her aspirations and all her, aesthetic philosophy. And yet the only thing really that she has on her credits and in her credits is this terrible movie. That's sad. And it's also sad to see the director, who apparently is angered that people think it's a bad movie. He's not willing to get into the swing of things and accept that everybody likes this movie because it's so awful. He's insisting that it is a good movie.
Well, and that's the thing. You don't. Everybody has an opinion. Everybody's a critic. You don't let something like that, get you down. You just, hey, I'm going to plow through this. You know what? Okay, you didn't like it. Fine. It's not going to be for everyone. I didn't make it for everyone. I know my audience. And for someone, and I love what you said before, you're like, not to put anything down, because these people had fun making this movie. Sure. It's probably most terrible thing ever, but you take that and you learn from it. And if you want to do it again, you just jump to the next thing. To just give up after someone puts you down, then, you're going to stay down. You need to use that.
I can tell you that if anybody ever told me that theaters were selling out all over town because people wanted to go and laugh at my movie, I would say, happy days are here again.
Yeah.
if you like the movie and if you're giving me your money, what the fuck do I care what you think about it? You know, the important thing is to make enough on a project so you can go on and make another one and then maybe prove the critics wrong.
Yeah.
But to be angry because the film is a success because it's bad, that doesn't seem to me to make any sense.
Like you said, money's money. I mean, if people are lining up, and don't they, correct me if I'm wrong, don't they have like this show every year? Like, don't they have a big showing of this in that town that it was shot in? Or
well, the dentist, the dental hygienist or whatever he is, who seems like a very nice guy, who plays the father in that Troll 2 movie, he was actually very enthusiastic. He seemed like a very open-minded person, but he made the mistake of thinking that the folks that live in his community would be impressed to hear that he was in one of the worst movies ever made. He's going around and telling these little old ladies at the grocery store, I was in one of the worst movies ever made. And you can see the expression on their faces. What the fuck are you telling us?
Yeah.
And apparently he did do screenings of the movie in his hometown, and it didn't go over too well from the documentary, at least from what we see in the documentary. And then he started to sour on the whole thing because he actually jumped in with both feet, and he started to attend conventions in New York, and the film wasn't really getting the sort of attention. The people weren't coming to the table because it really isn't the sort of thing that you can do conventions about, I don't think. The little like midnight show thing, that works. People will show up for that. They'll be lined up around the block for that. But to actually ask people to come in a convention to your table and pay you for an autograph, that's really asking a lot. So that didn't go over so well. And then he sort of soured on the whole thing, and he went back to being a dental hygienist. But I really felt kind of sad when I saw that movie because, we make fun of these films. It's so easy to do.
Yeah.
We forget sometimes that some people really put their heart into this. And,
I always think about the actors because they're just there for, let's say you're only on set for, half the half of what they're filming.
Right.
And then you're gone. You go on to something else. And then 2-3 months later, all your movie's out and you go watch and you're like, oh my God, the hell's this piece of shit? Because they weren't involved in the editing or the sound design. And it's just like, but there they are, their name,
right.
on
Their
the screen.
More than anything.
Yeah. It's just like, that's who I feel bad for.
Well, that happened with The Room as well, right? I mean, all these people and I really don't know what they were thinking, because it's hard for me to believe that anybody stood on that set and read that script and listened to this guy who is their director, Tommy Wiseau, who looks like the sort of zombie Willem Dafoe, I don't know. I'm sure he's a nice guy. Anyway, people actually stood on that set, listened to him give directions, and read that script and read that dialogue, and they thought they had some chance of being in a good movie.
Yeah.
Well, you have to watch The Disaster Artist.
I haven't seen that yet, but I have it on my list.
You have to watch that. That gave me really good insight into it.
Oh yeah, that was a fun.
It was really
that's
good.
a fun movie.
Yeah.
I loved it.
Well, it just goes to show how easy it is to make something bad. Well, actually, I shouldn't say that. It actually goes to show how hard it is to make something, even something that's bad is hard. That's what's surprising.
Do you know why the director never really done much after this, or?
Well, it seems pretty obvious.
Well, I didn't know if it was just this. I mean, if it was, he didn't go back to France and make other movies, or.
Well, his father apparently was a French filmmaker who apparently was held in fairly high regard, and he actually financed or helped to finish the film and put up the money to finish the film. So maybe when the film was finished, Dad had a little talk with his son and said, I don't think you're really cut out.
Yes.
But back then it was kind of a cutthroat business, right? Because it's not like now where we have all these other markets, right? You can sell your film in streaming, you can sell it on DVD, but back then it was like theater. If it wasn't booked into theaters, and if it didn't get a VHS release, I guess it did briefly get a VHS release. I guess that's the print that we've been looking at all these years. Mm-hmm. But it apparently didn't get any theater release, nothing in the United States of any significance, and it didn't get any broadcast TV play. So when you have a film that doesn't get any money back, I guess that probably puts your career, in a holding pattern at least. Maybe now he's making money from this new release of I hope he's making money from the release of the Blu-ray. Maybe that'll reinvigorate his career. Maybe he'll be back.
Maybe, I hope.
Husky,
not, he could
Husky
probably,
Dog Productions, right?
yeah. All right, so Aaron, do you recommend everybody seek this movie out and watch it?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, especially if you like these types of films. Have a bad movie night. Sit there and make that part of put it on the list. Definitely.
Well, if you're going to
Seek it
watch
out.
this movie, you're going to have a bad movie night no matter what. Right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Well, make it a planned one. Nah.
it's not a conscious decision, really.
Yeah.
Well, if you like Christmas movies, Christmas
Yeah.
themed movies with Christmas trees and Christmas lights, you like husky dogs, you like
Deer hunting.
deer hunting, yes. Get some shot of the animals cavorting in the woods. You got a lady in her bathrobe making tang. What else do you
Yeah.
have? Samurai
the-
armor.
Orgasmic woman flailing all over a naked woman flailing all over the bed.
Who wouldn't like that? Right?
Yeah.
So it's got everything, really. I'm surprised it wasn't a bigger hit.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Like I mean, I know, like I said, I never heard of it until Shudder. I'd actually seen Ninja 3 before this one. I was like, oh, this seems oddly familiar.
Yeah.
But I'm
I've seen
wondering
this
now
before.
that it's on Shudder, and I don't know how big Shudder is. I don't know a lot of people that have it, but I just wonder now with, like you said, what Vinegar Syndrome's doing a re-release.
Yeah,
I wonder if that'll maybe this episode also will help.
this will do it. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Sky's the limit.
I
now.
think so.
But
just
No,
boosted
no one
us
else
up.
has done any videos or podcasts about this movie yet.
I
so-
know. Isn't that weird?
well, I think
mean,
there
it's
might be a
been out
few
there.
actually. It's if you look hard enough, I think you'll
Okay,
find.
well,
a
the
few.
best
Yeah.
ones.
yeah.
Got a little competition out there.
Yeah.
It's hard to be humble.
Well, it's a handsome looking release too. I mean, the print is terrific.
It
and
is.
It's got a nice box art, and
Now, see, I noticed the one I watched on Shudder. A couple of the scenes were like extra dark and grainy, and you could tell it wasn't. I'm just wondering
well,
if the Shudder version is a different one than what you guys watched on Tubi.
well, the Vinegar Syndrome print apparently had some damage to it, and you can see some speckling in some scenes. But at the end, at least, the very last shot was lost. So they had to take the shot of the two of them walking away from the house, and the camera pans to a tree, and the credits start to roll. That's from the I guess the VHS print. But it's kind of cool because you immediately see the contrast. You say, "Oh, thank goodness we were watching this better print," And at the end, the credits are so screwed up, I could barely make them out. I kept thinking, hamster number 2. What is hamster? Hunter number 2. Hamsters. That's what this movie is lacking. We need more hamsters in this movie.
More hamsters.
Yeah.
I agree.
Plenty of hygge, though. No hamsters, plenty of hygge.
This is definitely one of the movies where, just like all the other movies I've stumbled upon, I'm going to get a T-shirt, and I'm going to try to find. I'm going to get the DVD, Blu-ray.
Oh, hell
whatever I
yeah.
can get. I'm going to definitely track it. I got to own it.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's probably going to be a limited release. I don't imagine
Yeah.
that they're turning out 10,000 copies of it.
Yeah, I'm sure I can find it in a budget bin somewhere in Walmart.
We-
So, William, what have you been working on recently?
Just surviving in these crazy times and trying to finish up Sleepless Nights, which I realize has gone on way too long now.
Yeah.
People are beginning to disbelieve me. They say,
You just,
"You're not
you just got to abandon it.
Yes, I
Oh,
just
God.
take George Lucas's. I feel confident that at some point I'll be able to say Sleepless Nights is now available, at which point people will say, "You wasted all your time on this?"
I'm looking forward to watching it.
Oh, by the way, I
Me too.
appreciate you guys doing those screenings of Demon Resurrection on B Movie TV because that.
Oh, yeah. No, thank you for, giving Ken permission to do that.
All right, so Aaron, you mentioned B Movie TV. Where else can everybody find you at?
They call me Mr. Poe on Slasher, Instagram, and Twitter, but go to our group 1313 Inc. I have a new show, The Call, which I interview different people from different things. Harry's working on something. I'm not going to spoil nothing. He's got something going on, and anything that we're doing, 1313 Inc. Go there. You'll see everything we're involved in. So, and we appreciate everybody that's a part of it.
You guys are putting me to shame with all the stuff you're doing.
Yeah.
I feel like and I announced like 6 months ago that I was going to try doing my own podcast. It's still nothing.
You just have to do it. You just got to do
Bring
it.
it, and love to have you part of the 1313 family.
Yeah, that's.
We'll do
I
that.
would. I think your philosophy of just doing it is exactly what's missing in me. I'm a procrastinator, and it's no good.
I used to be, but I was just like, okay, I'm just gonna.
You're like,
I wanted to do one. I was like, I really want to do a podcast because I don't have a face for YouTube. But then here I am on YouTube.
yeah.
So I just got
they're
with
all over
Billy
the
at
place
work. I
now.
was like, Billy, let's make a podcast, and we recorded our first episode, and there you go.
That's what you got to do, I guess.
All right. Well, this was a fun episode. William, thanks for
Fantastic.
coming back.
Thank you for having me.
It was way. I know you had problems on your end, but it was way too long. You have to. Now that you've got all that taken care of, we have to come on and to do some more of these episodes.
Oh,
I'd be very happy
Yes.
to. Yes, there's plenty of
I
other
actually
bad
have-
movies we could talk about.
Oh yeah, well I've got another really bad movie that it was kind of in the same vein as this one. Like I watched it and it had like this weird charm that I loved, and it's called The Dark Power. If you've never seen that one,
I haven't heard of that.
yeah.
definitely recommend. It's got a our hero fights the villain at the end with a whip.
Oh,
Nice.
So
No, I like the idea that, and I'm not going to say nothing. This ain't going to spoil nothing, but I love the idea that you had, William. And yes, I want to cover that. So we got something. Hopefully, we get to do it soon
all right.
on another franchise. That's
Yeah.
all I'll say.
Right. And I hope we do that because I sat through all those fucking movies. And it wasn't
Better
easy.
not be
I'll
all
tell you
for
that.
nothing.
I also read 2 books about the franchise.
Oh, wow.
I didn't even know that there were 2 books about that franchise. But
Wow.
so yeah, I'll look forward to that. I want to ask you a question, Kerry. One of the suggestions I made, and it's related to the other franchise that we were just talking about, was the Dark Shadows movies. And I noticed that was the one thing you didn't respond to at all. Do you have something against Dark Shadows?
no, I don't. It's been a long time since I've really seen any of them, so I know that if I'm going to cover that, that's going to be something I'm going to have to put time
yeah.
into
Well,
leading up to it. Whereas these movies, I can just like this one, I can just sit down and watch it today. You know what I'm saying? But with
Well,
the Dark, yeah, that's going to be.
Well, the reason I wanted to do the Dark Shadows thing is because I finally got to see the Tim Burton movie, and I really needed some place to go to express my grief and my anger and my frustration. So at some point,
Okay, I'll watch that movie and we can just cover that movie first, and then
All
we
right,
can
if you
go
like.
back or we can do a versus, like the show versus.
well, the TV show I wouldn't expect you to cover because that was on for like 5 years.
Right.
So 2,000 episodes.
That's going to be a long time.
They got 2 movies that they did to begin with, right? Night of the Dark Shadows and House of Dark Shadows, and they have the Tim Burton movie. And really, that's all you need to cover. You don't have to mention the remake series or the pilot that they did, but just those 3 films. It's interesting. And it actually ties into what we're talking about here because the first 2 movies were done in an actual place.
Well, that's what we'll do then. We'll do a versus.
Heck yeah.
Yes.
Original
okay.
versus Tim Burton's. I've never seen it, but I know it's going to be a hot mess.
Ah. That, we were talking about Exorcist 2 or whether it's the one. This is right up to the top of the list. Very,
Oh,
very
wow.
bad.
Oh man. Okay, now I gotta see
And
that.
I maybe just me. Maybe I don't get the joke, but it just seemed terrible to me. But we won't say it anymore.
Yes.
All right. Well, again, thanks for coming on here. This was
Thank you,
a fun episode.
Oh,
and
fantastic.
until next week, we will continue to watch The Good, the Bad, and the Cheaply Made.
It has been established that persons who have recently died have been returning to life and committing acts of murder. The unburied dead are coming back to life